November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and this week we are taking an in-depth look at several facets of this disease, including the impact of COVID, the needs of caregivers, and alternative therapies.
We begin tonight with an experimental drug that is showing promise in slowing the cognitive decline in patients. Senior health correspondent Monica Robbins has this story of hope.
Debra and Jerry Fair are high school sweethearts. Been together nearly 50 years, married 45. At 62, Jerry looked forward to retirement, never thinking a disease would derail those plans.
He came home from work and he was talking to me about how he was forgetting things at work.
It just kept getting more and more and more to the point where I was just standing there sometimes going, what am I supposed to do next?
Jerry's memory issues forced him to leave his job, and in 2019, he learned why: Alzheimer's disease.
You realize right away when you hear that diagnosis that your retirement years are probably not going to play out the way that you anticipated and that you planned.
They found a ray of hope in a clinical trial for an experimental drug called lecanemab. Jerry became the first patient enrolled at Cleveland Clinic.
I wanted to get into the trial, not so much for me, but if this is going to help somebody else down the road.
Jerry didn't know early on if he was getting the actual drug or a placebo during his bi-weekly infusion appointments. Lecanemab works by reducing abnormal clumps of beta amyloid plaque on the brain, believed to be one of the toxic causes of Alzheimer's. Preliminary results of lecanemab showed it slowed cognitive and functional decline by 27%.
The group who received the medication with decline was slower, and that can be interpreted to a better days of keeping your independence.
My suspicion is that he has gotten the medication the whole entire time. I feel like with a diagnosis coming up on 4 years ago, we would have seen more of a decline than what we're seeing right now.
8 months ago, Jerry began getting the actual drug.
There we go.
He can still drive, but chooses not to. He and Deb compete with trivia and word game apps to keep his mind sharp and focused. And of course, Baxter demands much of Jerry's attention. They're grateful for the good days, but now at 66, Jerry worries for the future and his high school sweetheart.
The biggest thing for me is forgetting my Debbie. That's the biggest thing for me.
We know what's coming, but it really doesn't do us any good to think about what's coming. We have to really focus on what we have right now.
Kind of like, I guess, why ruin today thinking about tomorrow?
One death has been reported in the lecanemab trial. The patient had swelling and bleeding in the brain. It's still being investigated whether the drug played a part. The patient was also taking blood thinners, which may have contributed, but no medication is without risk. Meanwhile, the manufacturers, Eisai and Biogen, already applied to the FDA for accelerated approval. The FDA has until January 6th to sign off. Now, if that happens, the companies will then seek full approval, and if they get it, the drug could be available to those with early onset Alzheimer's by the end of next year. Full approval is needed before it would be covered by Medicare and other health insurance.
Monica, is this the only new drug on the horizon?
No, but unfortunately, we learned today that another experimental drug from Genentech Roche called gantenerumab failed in clinical trials to slow cognitive decline. The Alzheimer's Clinical Trials Conference at the end of the month in San Francisco will update us on the latest treatments. And Dr. Tusi says we can expect some promising new ones in the next few years. So there is hope on the horizon.
That is certainly good news. All right, Monica Robbins, thank you.
Sure.